Hey everyone, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you're with me today because today we're going to be talking about my favorite books of the year. We are at the end of 2024, so it's time to go over my favorite books that I've read all year. And I have read so many books. But before we get into all of those books, my little spiel here. If you like my content, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos every Thursday and Sunday, and I feel like we have a good time here. I definitely have a good time making this content for you all and making these videos. And today, like I said, my favorite books. Now, disclaimer, these are all my favorite romance books. I will also be posting a post on my Instagram, also going over all of these books, but I will also have a favorite nonfiction book that I loved reading this year, and I will have some runner-ups or like honorable mentions. The books I'm going to be talking about today were all 5 stars for me. The honorable mentions were also like pretty good. I like almost put them in that category, but they're all like more like the 4.5 star range, but I still love them nonetheless and feel like they still deserve a little bit of hype. I'm just not going to be talking about them on this bit. They will be in my Instagram. So if I remember when I post this video, I will try to leave a link to that post down below in the description box. I will also definitely have links to all of these books that I'm going to be talking about down below in the description box. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. Now, these are not ranked. I know a lot of people on YouTube in the Instagram community like to rank their favorites of the year. That is not me. I've narrowed it down to about 10. There is one exception to it being 10, but about 10. And I don't know if I can narrow it down further than that. Like, I feel like top 10 is good. Like, these are the top of the top. Now, picking a number one, I don't know if I can do that. That's hard for me. I have all my babies. It's like picking a favorite baby. That's just not something as a mother that I can do. I love them all. And that's how I am as a reader as well. So we're going to right into it. First one being, and like I said, I'm going to be discussing these more so in the order that I read them this year. So they are not ranked. Anyway, so first up, we have Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This was a absolute sensation when it released. We got the second book that came out this year, which, I mean, the second book I didn't really like as much, but Butcher and Blackbird, first book of this trilogy, the Ruinous Love trilogy. Loved it. This is a dark rom-com. And when I say dark, it is very dark. This is about 2 serial killers. They have admired each other from afar, and they end up meeting and talking with each other, and they both just love what they do. And they decide that they are going to make this like competition for themselves. They will get together once a year, and they're doing this kind of like a scavenger hunt that somebody else sets up for them, and they are trying to find these different clues that leads them to a person for them to kill, and whoever gets to that person first and kills them first is that year's winner. So they do this for a few years, and as the years go by and their friendship continues, they realize that they like each other maybe a little bit more than just friends. So like I said, definitely dark. There's so many comedic moments in this. I listened to this on audiobook, which I think is definitely the way to go because it is a duet narration. The narrators of this absolutely killed it. They're just phenomenal in this one. Definitely check the trigger warnings for this because there is on the very first page of this book, if you pick up a physical copy, the trigger warnings are so long, but I absolutely adored this. I had so much fun listening to this audiobook and just the crazy scenarios that these two get into. And I am amazed by Bryn Weaver's imagination with creating this book because I would have never thought to do a book like this, but it was fantastic. Then we have Real by Kennedy Ryan. This is a contemporary romance. This will be a series, but she has not yet written any other books in this series, because I think this one, I read it at the beginning of the year when it was still an indie book. It is now traditionally published. It got picked up by a publisher. So this is a movie star romance. This is a romance between a director and his starlet. She is an up and coming star. She's acted on Broadway, but this is her first foray into film, and he nabs her to be his starlet for this film. They are making a biopic about this not so well known Black opera singer from, I think, like the 40s, 30s, 40s, somewhere in that genre. And so this is definitely like the workplace romance, since they're working together. They have feelings for each other, but they don't want that to skew how the film is made. They both have such passion for the work that they are doing with this film. This also does have chronic illness representation in it, which I loved seeing. As with any Kennedy Ryan book, I was tearing up with this, and I'm just amazed by how strong her characters are, especially the women. I love seeing such strong female characters in books, and Kennedy Ryan always hits it out of the park. I'm always learning things too from her, from the books that I'm reading from her, especially about she lists out several, like, not known to me at least, Black artists, singers, actresses, and it's just I love seeing that aspect in her books. I love learning more about things that I just didn't really know about. So I absolutely adored this one. I thought it was fantastic. I can't wait to read more from this series whenever she does decide to put those books out, which I like I said, I know they are coming, since this book did get picked up by a publisher. And then we have, this one is the one that I'm like, it's a little bit more than 10 books. So we have the Frozen Fate trilogy by Pam Godwin. This was a trilogy that came out this year. I ARC read every single one of these. The first book was actually my very first ARC book ever. So I thought that was amazing that I got to do that for Pam Godwin. She's one of my absolute favorite authors. And this one was just amazing. I gave all of these books 5 stars. Since it was a whole series, I was like, I just don't know that I can pick one book out of the series that is my favorite above the others, because the entire story builds off, like, each book builds off of the prior one with the plot and what is going on, and it's just, it was so good. So this is a romantic suspense story. This is a dark romance story. Our female main character of this one, in the first chapter of the book, she gets kidnapped out of her home, and she is taken to the absolute wilds of Alaska. There's nobody around for miles and miles and miles, and she gets dumped with this guy, her captor, at this cabin. He has 3 other men that are also there. So she is not only trying to survive the wilderness, because it is just absolutely brutal, but she's also trying to survive her captors and the mind games that they are playing with her, to figure out who she can potentially trust and how she's going to get herself out of the situation and go back home. It was amazing. I could not put these books down. All of these books are very long. Like, they're around the 500 to 700 page range. They did not feel like that to me, because there's so much action in these books. There are twists and there are turns, and I could not put this down. I flew through all of these books, and I'm amazed. I love them so much. There is also some mental health representation in here because of what is happening to them. Lots of trigger warnings. Like I said, these are very, very dark books. And I love Pam Godwin. Like I said, she's one of my favorite authors, and I cannot wait to see what else she has in store in the future. I will 100% be reading all of it. Then we have Hold Me While You Wait by Kimberly Brown. This was a new to me author, and I'm so glad I found her, and I need to read so many more books from her. This is a contemporary romance between two single parents. Our female main character is divorced, and she's taking care of her son and her deceased sister's child. The two of them, their kids become best friends in school. One of their children was being bullied, and the other one like stepped in to protect them. And so that's how our two main characters meet, is through like going to school with this situation that happened, and then their kids become best friends, so they're continuing to see each other. They definitely have the hots for one another, and then they decide to potentially pursue a relationship together. I loved their relationship in this. It was so tender and loving. The male main character of this story is absolute book boyfriend material. He is, number one, he's an amazing dad. He does daily affirmations with his daughter. Love seeing that. And then just how caring and nurturing he is to our female main character of this story. And he builds her a bookshelf, which love that. That's absolutely a way to my heart. And I adored this story. I was smiling so much reading this story. And it was one of those like really good, like feel good stories with the relationship, not only between our two protagonists with their love that they have for one another, but also with the relationship with the kids as well. And they were really trying to grow as a family together. And I just thought it was so beautiful. I loved it. Then we have You and Me by Tal Bauer. This one is an Achillean romance between two single fathers. We have Luke. His wife has recently passed away, and his son was closer with his wife. So him and his son are kind of estranged, even though they live in the same house. And so Luke is wanting to figure out a way to get closer with his son. He wants to have a relationship with his son. So his son is in football. He goes to a game, and he ends up meeting Landon there. Landon is the father of Luke's son's best friend, who also happens to be on the football team. Landon volunteers to help out at the football games, and he runs into Luke and is like, hey, if you want to reestablish your relationship with your son, you need to show up for him. And he's just also volunteering with the other parents of the football players to help set up the events and feed the players so that he can be around his son more. So Luke and Landon strike up this friendship, and Landon's trying to help him. And it also helps that their sons are best friends, so that also puts them in more proximity with each other, as well as Luke with his son, to try to get to know him again. And of course, over the course of their friendship and always being around each other, they fall in love. And it is one of the most, like, I'm about to tear up. It is one of the most beautiful love stories I have ever read. It was just so heartwarming, and I loved seeing them like fall in love, because you could tell just reading that it was like one of those like falling in love with your whole being and your whole soul. Like they fell in love with each other's souls, and I loved it so much. And the fact that they are wanting to be great dads to their sons. You know, he just wants to be a good dad, and he wants to have a good relationship with his son, and he's trying so hard. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I have no, like, this is one of those books that you can't tell me there's anything wrong with it, because it's just, in my mind, it is just one of those like perfection books. It is so good. I loved it so much. I have not read any other Talbauer, and I really need to because I loved it. I know I'm saying that over and over. I just, it's so good, and you need to read it. Then we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Also, totally understand the hype for this author now after reading this book. I picked this one up because I was just like, hey, it's her newest book. I want to try it out. So this is about our two characters. They meet because they end up messing each other online through Reddit. Our mailman character posted something online that she thought was funny and related to. They decide to fake date because they are both very unlucky in love. Everybody that they tend to date, after they break up, that person ends up finding the love of their life. So they decide if they fake date, since this happens to both of them, that then when they break up, then that'll cancel out each other's unluckiness. But of course, they find out that they actually really like each other and maybe want to pursue things more than just friendship. However, they both have a lot of things going on in their lives that they are dealing with. With him, his mother is about to go to jail or prison. I always have trouble differentiating between jail and prison. I think she's going to prison. And so he is going to be the sole custody parental figure for his younger siblings who are underage. And then she is dealing with a lot of emotional trauma and baggage from her very distant and absent mother. She is a travel nurse, so that's why they are able to meet. So I love this, most especially because of the mental health representation in here. There's lots of discussions about mental health in this book, and I loved that. One of the characters actually ends up getting treatment, and I love seeing that as well. Seeing that more normalized in a contemporary book that we see on the bookshelves. And then I also just love their relationship because it's definitely a slow burn. They definitely take a while to really get to know one another, and they have deep and meaningful conversations with each other. They also get into fun shenanigans together, and it was so fun to see them truly be friends first and then have that more like deeper connection build off of that. And it was just so good. And now, like I said, I understand the hype for this author, and I need to read so many other books. I read this and I was like, I need to read everything that this author has ever written. I have yet to do that, but it is in the works. I definitely will. Then I have another Kennedy Ryan book on this list because Kennedy Ryan is also one of my favorite authors now. I have Long Shot. This is the first book of her Hoops series. And this one was so hard to get through, but I just felt like it was so important to read. And the outcome at the end, I knew all of the trouble that was in this book would be worth it by the end, and it definitely was. So this is a more, definitely more of a slow burn type of romance, not really having anything to do with like the characters themselves, but more so their situations that they are, specifically our female main character, Iris. So our two characters, August and Iris, in this book, they meet when they're in college. August is a basketball star and he's wanting to go pro. They meet at a bar and they just start talking about basketball, and he realizes as they are talking that he has met his woman. Like, this is the person for him. However, she is already in a relationship with his rival. So they don't get together when they meet, and it takes a very long time for them to get together because of Iris's relationship. So there are definite trigger warnings in this book for domestic abuse. And this actually is said on Kennedy Ryan's, like, the physical copy. If you turn the back over, like looking at the blurb of what this book is about, it specifically states that this is about domestic abuse, domestic violence. She has a lot that she is dealing with her significant other. And it takes a lot for her to finally end up escaping that situation and for her to be with August at the end. And like I said, this was really hard to get through. So I can understand if this is one that you might skip, but this is honestly, I feel like one of the best books that has ever been written. It was so good because I feel like this is such an important topic to talk about, to be aware of, because this happens every day, especially to women. And so I loved the conversations that were had in this book. Like I said, I'm always learning so much from Kennedy Ryan, and I love that. But also just her characters. Iris is probably one of my favorite characters that I have ever read because of her struggles that she goes through, but then they make her so much stronger. I was so proud by the end of this book of her finally getting out of that situation and getting to a better point. And I was just, I was rooting for her the entire time. And I'm going to start tearing up. It's so fucking good. And I really want more people to read it. But like I said, I completely understand if that is very triggering for you or you just don't know if you can do it. But if you can, this is 100% one that you need to pick up. Okay, back to a little bit more lighthearted of book. Then we have If This Was a Movie by Morgan Elizabeth. Morgan Elizabeth has now also become one of my favorite authors because I just love everything that I pick up from her. And I need to read her entire backlist. This one is a holiday romance. In fact, this one and the last two books that I'm going to be talking about are all holiday romances. This one is also a second chance. Our male and female main characters of this story, they had like a one night stand / weekend together around New Year's. There was a little bit of miscommunication that happened, and then they went their separate ways. So now it is right before Christmas, and they end up running into each other again because he had just taken his daughter to go see Santa. She wished for a wife for her dad, basically, for her dad to fall in love with a actualized version of her little ballerina doll. So they are walking out from seeing Santa, and they run into our female main character, who happens to be a ballet dancer. She owns a dance studio, but her dance studio, the pipes burst, and now her studio is flooded. Her apartment's flooded. She's out on the street trying to figure out what to do. He happens to be working construction or something. So when they run into each other, his daughter is immediately like, hey, this is her. She's in a ballerina outfit. This is the person that I wished for, and my wish came true. He is also amazed because he wanted to find her again. He really liked her. So they get into a scenario. They make a deal. She needs a place to stay. He's got room at his place. He needs a nanny for his daughter, and she can do that for him. And then he will help with the construction of her place and get it back to running order so she can live there. And in the meantime, his plan is to try to woo her and make her fall in love with him because he already thinks she's amazing, really likes her, wants to date her. And of course, they fall in love, but she is now very reluctant to fall in love because he broke her heart when she last saw him. And it was just, it was so good. She is a romantic at heart, and she loves watching romance movies. And so he decides he's going to act out some of the scenes in those romance movies to her to show her that love is not just something that happens in the movies. It happens in real life. And it just made me so happy reading this book. I connected so much to our female main character and the things that she loves, and that just some of her like hopeful nature that she had, which was kind of squashed a little bit after he broke her heart. And seeing that light come back and them fall in love. And it's just, Morgan Elizabeth's male main characters are also always book boyfriend material. They are like the best male main characters. They are exactly what I want in boyfriend, and I love them so much. I devoured this book, and I can't wait to read more from her. I also loved Chilled and Thrilled by Cleo White. This one is a holiday romance novella that I recently read and devoured along with all the rest of the books on this list. Couldn't put this down. This has all the tropes that I love and I gobble up. It is forbidden. It is an age gap. Like, what more do you need? That is my bread and butter. That is what I love. This one is about these, our two main characters. They work together. He is her boss. He also just happens to be her best friend's father. So they know they both have the hots for each other, but they know it can't happen because it's so forbidden. It is right before Christmas and their office is shutting down. They're the last ones there. She's walking out. It's snowing. She almost gets hit by a car. He rescues her, takes her to the emergency room, but it is snowed so badly. The only place that they can go is his place. So they end up getting snowed in together. And that's when they find out that really realize that they have the hots for each other and that they would want to be together, but they've just been kind of waiting for the other one to make a move. So both of them have downloaded a dating app and realize that they match with each other on this app. And so, of course, our male main character, when he finds out that she also matches with him, he's like, all right, I'm going for it, and is very determined that she is going to be his. Enough bullshit. I'm going to make her mine. And I totally fell for it. I loved it. And it was so well done. And it was so fun to read too. I loved how fun it was. It was very sexy. Oh my goodness, was this book hot. And this will be actually a start of a romance novella series. The second book, which is about one of her friends, so one of his daughters, comes out, I believe, in January, end of January. So look forward to that. I am looking forward to that. I cannot wait to read that. I need to read more from this author. And then the last book that I have on this list is From Cocktails to Sleigh Bells by Ren K. Morris. This is another holiday romance novella that I just ate up. I just thought it was so fun, and I was smiling the whole way through reading this one. This is a one-night stand with Santa. Santa has just gotten off of work from delivering gifts around the world with his team that he has, and he is wanting to go to one of his favorite bars just to kind of unwind and relax, maybe take somebody home with him. And as he is making his way there, our female main character just shut down her bar that she works at or owns. One of those. She's walking home, but she ends up slipping on some black ice and hitting her head. He comes over to rescue her. She stabs him because she's like, this is a stranger. I don't know who you are. And he ends up taking her back to his place to patch her up. And they have some fun, sexy times together. And it was hilarious. Santa is compelled to make all kinds of naughty holiday puns, and I just ate it up. I love the writing of this, and I jive so well with this story. And again, it was just so much fun to read. I adored this. I loved it so much, and you should absolutely read it. You should absolutely read all of the books that I have on this list because they were all so fantastic. Also, because we're at the end of this video now, definitely go and check out my Instagram page because I will have the nonfiction book that was my favorite of the year, and then all of those honorable mentions of other books that I read that just didn't quite make it to this list, but they still deserve hype nonetheless. So I'm glad y'all are with me today. I'm glad if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. I cannot wait to get to next year and just see what all other books that I can discover in 2025 that can make it to my favorites list, because that's just one of my favorite things about reading is just finding that next new great book. It's just so exciting. So that is going to be it for this very long video. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.